first video clip is a model for table presentations. It is very informal with a very short bio because the speaker is familiar with the audience. The conclusion is also very short. There is no summary. The speaker simply thanks the audience and asks if there are questions. This all makes for a very informal presentation, which is appropriate for a presentation meant to be fun. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you. I'm Jim. For my media presentation, I have chosen film, and I'm going to speak about one of the most famous movie stars of all time, Godzilla. Godzilla's first movies were in 1954 and 1955. This is the first movie, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. And this is his second movie, Godzilla Raids Again. The first movie he destroys Tokyo. In the second movie he destroys Osaka. And you can see Osaka Castle in the background. There were a number of other movies in the late 50s, and by the 60s they were in color. And this is Mothra versus Godzilla. It's a giant moth. And by the 70s, it was Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla. 1975. By then, the series was starting to lose a bit of its focus. There were more movies made. By the 80s, there was an animation. Godzilla had a son. He was a nice guy. It sort of got a little bit off track, but they continued to make Godzilla movies. And in the 90s, there were 6 movies. Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, Godzilla vs. Mothra again, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, Godzilla vs. Destroyer, and Godzilla 2000. So through the 1990s, there were 6 Godzilla movies. Now these movies were all made in Japan by Toyo Films. By the 90s, American filmmakers got involved. I believe there were 5 films made by an American company of Godzilla. There was some collaboration, they worked together, but I think most of them were in Japan. There's been over 30, and maybe 5 of them were made in America. And the last one that was made in America is Godzilla, King of the Monsters, in 2019. So they returned to the original title. One thing I'd like to mention is 1962, King Kong versus Godzilla, 1962. This theme was brought up again in 2021 with Godzilla vs. Kong. And in 2024 we will see Godzilla vs. Kong, the new empire. Godzilla is not done. We have more Godzilla coming. And I have one more picture I'd like to share with you. That is Godzilla's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. This is a sidewalk in Hollywood where the most famous movie stars, Marilyn Monroe and Frank Sinatra and John Wayne, they all have their stars on the Walk of Fame. Godzilla is there, and he deserves it. He is one of the biggest movie stars of all time. Thank you for watching. If you have a question, I'll try to answer. This is a more formal presentation. It has the proper structure of an introduction, body, and conclusion. The audience is addressed as ladies and gentlemen, and the speaker gives biographical information because the audience may not know him. The conclusion contains a summary. This is a formal and traditional presentation. It is a problem-solution presentation. After the introduction and a transition, the speaker explains the problem, states the cause, and offers a possible solution. Note, in the solution, he answers the questions: what is the solution? Who will do it? And how will it be done? Those are important questions to answer in the solution. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. I am Professor Jensen. I teach at State U in the Media Studies Department. And this morning I'm going to talk about fake news, misinformation. The title of my presentation is Fake News. What can we do? In this presentation, I will discuss what fake news is. I will explain why there's been such an explosion of fake news, and I will mention one thing that will help solve the problem, although it's a very difficult problem to solve. So let me begin by saying fake news is misinformation, and it is not new. There has always been lies, misinformation, libel. Libel is intentional telling, intentional falsehoods, lies. Fake, false propaganda. Countries have done that since the beginning of time. So misinformation is not new. Fake news is simply lies. The problem today is that these lies spread so fast. And it's because of the internet. With the invention of the internet, fake news, misinformation can spread around the world instantaneously, immediately. Millions of people can see and hear this fake news, this misinformation, in seconds. And that's a difficult problem, one that we may not completely solve. What I propose is one small step in helping solve the problem. I believe that the government should make stricter libel laws, define libel strictly, and enforce that, and make sites on the internet responsible. Social network sites, for example, responsible for what is posted. If the government made stricter libel laws, people would be more careful about what they post. And if the government penalized people under these new laws, people would certainly be more careful about what they say and post. And if the government held social network sites responsible for what is posted, those sites would be more careful. It's a small step, and the government must be very careful because people have freedom of speech. They can voice their opinions, they can say what they believe, but it's a very fine line between stating your opinion and creating falsehoods, lies. That has to be clearly defined and enforced. In summary, stricter laws defining libel, penalizing those people who do not follow the new laws, and holding social network sites responsible for what is posted. That is one way to help solve the problem of fake news. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I'll be here to answer them. Thank you.